Welcome back to 843 TV. We're here with Cathy Giacalone. She's with the Clemson Carolina Clear. She's the coordinator with them. Welcome.
Thanks, Mike.
So, Cathy, it says here that Carolina Clear is a stormwater education program. Tell us, what is stormwater? Why do we need to know about it?
Great. Well, I want to thank our communities that have brought us down here to work with residents, the Beaufort County, City of Beaufort, Hilton Head, Port Royal, and the town of Bluffton, and our educational partners, because stormwater is a really important topic in this area, and it's universal, but the problems are local. Stormwater is runoff that's generated by rainfall and excess irrigation, so when we're watering our sidewalks and our parking lots, and everything it picks up, that pollutant cocktail, goes straight to our waterways. It's not treated, and it can really impact our waterways and way of life here. So I like to refer to stormwater pollution as people pollution, because we all have a possibility to contribute to it, but as a problem, but also contribute it as a fix.
Okay. When you say pollutant cocktail, that makes me think there's a whole lot in there that perhaps we're unaware of.
Yes, and it can be a nasty concoction, I think, for our wildlife and for the waters that we need for our quality of life here. So that could be cigarette butts, trash, bacteria and viruses from pet and waterfowl waste, oil from cars, a whole bunch of nasty elements.
Katie, the Chamber is all about ecotourism, and we all learned today that Beaufort County is 50% water and wetlands, which is, in our local resources, are a huge draw for the community that comes here. What can individuals do to decrease runoff?
Thank you. There's so many small things. Carolina Clear focuses on education that's going to motivate behavior change. So small things like picking up after your pet, bagging that waste and putting it in the trash is one thing. Evaluating your connection to the landscape is really important. Just walking outside today and seeing, what do I put on the landscape that contributes when it rains, that runs off? So are you getting your soil tested and knowing what fertilizers to apply before you do it? So that fertilizer bag, that NPK ratio, we normally don't need the P, so that phosphorus can run off and pollute our waterways, cause algae problems in our stormwater ponds. Those are small things. Looking at big changes as far as does your community allow rain barrels and rain gardens and things that are going to add to the landscape and treat water quality are some of the bigger elements that
Where would people find a list of some of those things?
Yeah, I think we'll have the websites listed, but if someone just searches Clemson Carolina Clear, they will find a whole toolkit of resources, newsletters for their communities, manuals, and information to help them take that next step.
Katie, many of us live on the waterfronts, so that's a common thing around here. So it just stands to reason there must be something we can do to make a difference.
Yes.
What is that?
People who live on the waterfront have the most immediate impact to protect or impair that waterway, and yet have the full realization of what that impaired waterway means to their home value and their way of life. So what I like to call a living shoreline is a really inexpensive toolkit and an element that people can bring to their yard to bring their yard to a three-dimensional standpoint and also protect water quality. So a buffer or a living shoreline will remove 80% of sediment that goes to your ponds or lagoons that later needs to be excavated out, which is costly to a community. And a buffer does not have to be completely taking up your view shed. You could have a bench, a path, birdhouses, a place to view wildlife, and still protect water quality at the same time. And there's some pictures of that I think the station's going to show.
So does the Clemson Extension and the Carolina Clear have resources for those of us who are interested in stormwater pond management in our own neighborhoods?
Every neighborhood that I see here, every commercial complex has a stormwater pond, and while we think of those as waterfront living, that's also flood storage and water quality control, and that's why it's in there in the landscape, is to capture that runoff and make sure it doesn't flood our streets. So it's a really important asset to a community to protect long term. So we have a website, and if you search Clemson stormwater ponds, you'll find a whole decision tree of how to solve your stormwater pond problems, and also some information, some contacts and tools to make better decisions as a community board.
Now, is this program geared primarily for adults and homeowners and that sort of thing. Is there any kind of program that's integrated into the schools to teach children the importance of this?
We do, and we try to. It's a big, broad audience that's involved in stormwater. So we're trying to take things off in chunks. We have a couple of lesson plans with whiteboard activities on our website that are free for teachers to use that work with 5th and 7th grade curriculum standards for science. And they talk about connecting kids with watersheds, the impacts of land use change, and what kids can do to be stewards of the environment, and how to teach their parents too.
Yeah.
Like I did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have seen, because you mentioned the various elements in this cocktail of stuff that can go into the water. I've seen folks feeding Canada geese and sometimes even turtles. I mean, does this kind of activity impact the watershed in any way?
More and more so, if we don't change our behavior and modify our landscape and talk to our neighbors about this practice, we are going to see an increasing problem with residential Canada geese. And Canada geese and residential Canada geese, they look exactly the same. There's no genetic difference. What happens is a Canada geese comes here to a shoreline where they have free access. They can look everywhere. They don't see predators. They say, I'm going to stay here. They bury their eggs in the shoreline. And just like salmon, those babies will come back every year to lay their eggs at the same spot. And one goose has 25 times the amount of bacteria in their fecal bacteria in their waste as a human. So that could have a significant public health.
I knew there was more than one reason why I didn't like Canadian geese.
That could be a significant public health risk long term.
On that note,
Yeah.
Cathy Giacalone, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate all of our guests, and we appreciate you joining us. Join us next week for more 843 TV.
Where communities come to speak.